There's a Modern Horizon leak of 4 new creatures that turn into Planeswalkers that seem absolutely absurd. First one I want to talk about is Saurin of House of Markov. Is one of any color and 1 black for legendary creature human noble with lifelink. It has Extort. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, exile Saurin House of Markov, then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. His other side starts with 3 loyalty and has Extort. You can do a +2 create a food token. -1 Saurin Ravenous Neonate deals damage equal to the amount of life you gain this turn to any target. -6 gain control of target creature. It becomes a vampire in addition to other types. Put a lifelink counter on it if you control a white permanent other than that creature or Saurin. 2 mana for this is really low, especially with a butt as big as this. Having 4 toughness is so important because it means it doesn't die to lightning bolt. And it will be such a pain for any aggressive deck that cares about life total to deal with these creatures, because you'll have to do a ton of damage to kill it. But it also has 2 other ways on its first side to gain life. The lifelink and the extort makes it a lot easier to get to 3 life, and there's a ton of other options to gain life that you could run in this deck to flip him easily. And once he's flipped, honestly his -1 seems like his best ability, because he only flips unless you gain 3 life. So his -1 at first will always deal at least 3 damage, which is absurd to flip right into, because you can immediately remove an opponent's creature, which in turn protects him from being attacked by it. And then if you have consistent life gain, which you should, he can just become a shooting gallery. And now that he's flipped, you can push to his ult by +2ing. Honestly, making a food token isn't the best, because spending 2 mana in Modern for 3 life is so low. But you can wait to use him for the next turn, and then -1 and make sure you have the 3 life so you can kill another thing. His -1 also deals damage to any target. That means it can shoot face, it can shoot planeswalkers, it can shoot battles and creatures. Makes it super flexible, and I'm sure there's a combo of gaining a ton of life, -1, and killing your opponent, which sounds really cool. His ult is pretty easy to get to. You only need to activate the food thing twice before you can do it, and then he won't die, which is really strong. I think this card could maybe make life gain good in Modern again, because it's so efficient for 2 mana. It's an early drop that will protect you against aggressive decks, especially Ragavan, which this annihilates. And then when you do the really easy thing of gaining 3 life on 1 turn, it becomes a very strong planeswalker. Grist, Voracious Larva is 1 green mana for a 1/2 legendary creature insect with Death Touch. Whenever a Grist, Voracious Larva, or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, you may pay 1 green mana. If you do, exile Grist, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. The flip side starts with 3 loyalty, it's +1, create a 1/1 black green insect creature token, then mill 2 cards. Put a Death Touch counter on the token if a black card was milled this way. -2, destroy target artifact or enchantment. -6, for each creature card in your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1 black and green insect. So Yawgmoth gets another great piece. It really didn't need it. So bare bones, 1 mana for a 1/2 Death Touch is decent. Obviously, if that's all it did, it would not be a good card. But it can, again, stop early aggression, trade with the Ragavan, and maybe trade with something bigger later on in the game. But in Yawgmoth, it is so ridiculously easy to get a creature back from the grave to pay the 1 mana. So transforming it really isn't hard, but you can still use this card as value without transforming it, because it is a creature and you can sacrifice this to Yawgmoth if you need it. Now the other side is busted. Yawgmoth runs a lot of black cards, so the 1/1 having Death Touch happen most of the time, and being able to make a Death Touch creature every turn while giving you card advantage by milling things is really powerful. The -2 is just really nice removal if you ever need it. It could be devastating against some decks. It could be land destruction if you target an Urza's Saga. So that's really strong. And then the ult is kind of bust, because to get to that point, you would have had to +1 3 times. So that means that this card would have put 6 cards in your grave. So your grave is going to be pretty big. And then the rest of the deck is made to make that grave even bigger. So alting and getting copies for all of your creatures in the grave, sure, they're 1/1s, but that doesn't matter because most of your creatures are small anyway. It will give you the combo you need to go off and destroy your opponent and go infinite.
Does get destroyed by instant speed graveyard removal, though.
Ral Monsoon Mage is 1 of any color and 1 red for a 1/3 legendary creature human wizard. With instants and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell during your turn, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, Ral Monsoon Mage deals 1 damage to you. If you win the flip, you may exile Ral. If you do, return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. So his other side has 2 loyalty and a static that says Ral Leyline Prodigy enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on him for each instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn. You can +1 until your next turn. Instants and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. You can -2 him. Ral deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Draw a card if you control a blue permanent other than Ral. And -8, exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may cast an instant and sorcery spells from among them this turn without paying their mana cost. So this card is clearly pushed for Storm. It basically is a better Baral Chief of Compliance. I'll probably see play alongside each other, which is great because Storm really needed help. Obviously, it's not an archetype I'm overly fond of because they take forever. But the 1 damage it does to you is worth it being able to flip. Sure, you can get really unlucky and just deal so much damage to yourself, and if you're playing against an aggressive deck, maybe you side this guy out. I love that once he flips, you can immediately +1 and get that emblem again of costing your instants and sorceries 1 less. So you can keep on storming off even though he flips. And he will always come out at 3 loyalty, so you can always -2 without killing him. And maybe get some card draw. You need a blue permanent, which is really tough in a Storm deck. I know you run Baral and some few other cards, but it's not going to be super consistent. And then the 2 damage and could slow your opponent down before they kill you. Maybe kill 2 creatures, which would be really cool. It's pretty good at taking out Orcish Bowmasters. And now the ult, I think the ult is the coolest, because let's say you're storming off, but you don't have all your pieces. You can play Ral Moonsage, play a spell. If you get lucky, you flip him. And if you've already cast enough spells, he could come in with 8 loyalty and ult immediately, which seems absurd to me, because you're going to look at the top 8 cards, and if there's not the cards you need to win, there'll be cards that will give you the mana and the card advantage you need to win. So his ult is just absolutely devastating, which makes sense because it's -8, which is a lot. The card is really powerful. It's a 2 mana cost reducer that can also be removal and card advantage, which is everything the deck wants. Tamiyo Inquisitive Students is 1 blue mana for a 0/3 legendary creature Moonfolk Wizard with flying. Whenever Tamiyo Inquisitive Student attacks, investigate. When you draw your 3rd card in a turn, exile Tamiyo, then return her to the battlefield transformed under her owner's control. Tamiyo Seasoned Scholar comes in with 2 loyalty. You can +2 until next turn. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, it gets -1/-0 until end of turn. -3. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. If it's a green card, add 1 mana of any color. -7. Draw cards equal to half the numbers of cards in your library rounded up. You get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. So first of all, she has a great butt. She can block Ragavan, which is always really important for 1-drops to do. And on your second turn, you can flip this if you're running a deck around that, because you draw your first card for turn, and now you only need to draw 2 more cards. For 2 mana, that's pretty doable. And if you can do that really early, her +2 gets really strong, because you're not only adding +2 loyalty, but it'll be even harder for them to hit you and make you lose loyalty. Her -3 is fine. It's kind of too bad you can't activate it immediately. You need to +2 first. But returning instant sorcery can be very strong to your hand. And if you do get a green card, adding 1 extra mana could be really strong for you to play the card immediately. Now, the -7 is kind of absurd. Drawing half your deck is way too many cards, but I'm not going to complain. Her +2 will get you there pretty fast, especially if you can turn her on turn 2. For a control deck, this card is really appealing. It gets you card advantage on attacks, it is a strong blocker, it can make your opponent's creature smaller, and it can bring you card advantage. Returning a spell over and over like a counterspell just to annoy your opponents to its fullest extent. I can already tell this set is going to be absolutely crazy because every single one of these cards are so pushed while being so unique and powerful. I'm in love with these cards and I cannot wait to see them in Modern because they will see play for sure. That's all I had to say about these amazing cards. If you guys did enjoy the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one.